Story 1, the 4th of Never. Everyone remembers where they were, the night the fireworks didn't stop. July 4th, 2025. What started as celebration turned to chaos when the skies over the small town of Ashcroft, Pennsylvania, lit up, and never went dark again. For 72 straight hours, the colors rained down. But they weren't just fireworks, they were signals, warnings, or maybe arrivals. Ashcroft was known for its patriotic zeal. Every year, families packed the hillsides for a festival of music, food, and the biggest fireworks show in the county. No one expected this year to be any different until 9:15 p.m., when the sky cracked open with a burst of light that didn't fade. A red explosion that hung overhead, frozen in place, pulsing like a heartbeat by midnight. The town's power grid had collapsed. Cell service failed, and the people who stared too long at the lights began acting strange. Eli Parker, a 38-year-old history teacher at Ashcroft High, was grilling hot dogs with his sister Claire and her 9-year-old son Max when the first firework exploded. They were on the bluff above town, as they were every year, their blanket laid out beside a dozen other families. The atmosphere was jovial music blaring from radios, kids waving glow sticks, and the smell of grilled meat thick in the air. Then, Max tugged at Eli's sleeve. "Uncle Eli, They're not going out." Eli looked up. The red burst that had exploded moments earlier still hung in the sky, not fading, not flickering, just glowing. Laughter turned to murmurs. Phones were raised, some clapped, thinking it was a new effect. But then the light began pulsing, not random, rhythmic, like a heartbeat, and one by one, people started collapsing. No sound, no warning, just dropped to their knees, holding their heads. Claire screamed. Eli grabbed Max and pulled them both to the car. They weren't the only ones. That night, the sky began to hum. Not a sound, exactly, but a vibration. Eli felt it in his bones. Every light in town flickered in tandem with the pulses. A neighbor, Mr. Denton, was digging a hole in his front yard with his bare hands. "It's under us," Denton said when Eli approached. "It's been under us the whole time." Eli backed away slowly. When he tried to call 911, his phone displayed a loading screen with shifting symbols instead of numbers. Then it shut off. When he tried to drive out of town, the road looped. No matter which direction he drove, he returned to the same intersection, a broken streetlight, and a billboard reading "Ashcroft welcomes you." By morning, the streets were nearly empty. Those who stayed inside had their windows covered. Those who didn't, single quotes, changed. The people weren't themselves. They smiled constantly, never blinking. Some stood on rooftops, gazing at the sky. Others drew symbols on their walls in red paint or blood. Children stopped speaking in full sentences, instead humming in unison like a choir. Eli kept a journal. It was the only thing that anchored him. He documented changes, shifts in gravity, shadows moving independently, whispers in the air that said his name. He avoided eye contact with the changed. They followed him silently when he did. One night, Max pointed at the sky and said, "They're almost through." Claire cried herself to sleep that night. Max never slept again. On July 5th, the town center burst into flame, but there was no smoke. No heat, just red fire that burned like water. Through it walked figures, tall, robed, faceless. They chanted without mouths, and above them, The red explosion still pulsed. Flags appeared on every house. Flags Eli had never seen before, and stars that made no sense. Colors that hurt to look at. They moved despite the still air. A voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "You are seen." Eli gathered the remaining survivors: Claire, Max, Mr. Denton, who had returned to himself, and 5 others. They barricaded themselves in the old stone church at the edge of town. Beneath the church was a trapdoor. One of the survivors, a local librarian named May, found references to it in an old town ledger. "Built before the town," she said, "when this land was still forest." The chamber below was lined with red stone. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, and in the center a machine, not like anything Eli had ever seen. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the sky. The machine whispered, not in words, but in hunger, or "let us through," it seemed to say. The group argued. May and Denton wanted to destroy it. Claire wanted to run. Eli didn't know what to believe. But Max, standing closest to it, simply said, "They're already here." As the days stretched on, July 4th never ended. Clocks froze. The sun refused to rise or set. The sky stayed a dim red, like eternal twilight. Ashcroft unraveled. Roads. Decayed houses aged 100 years overnight. Time collapsed. The changed stood in rows, facing outward, as if waiting. For what? No one knew. Inside the church, Eli made a decision. They couldn't destroy the machine. They had to send a signal, a warning. Using old radio parts, they tapped into its frequency and broadcasted a simple message. "Do not look, do not stay. Ashcroft is not safe." Only static answered. But far away, in a city miles from Ashcroft, a ham radio operator picked it up. Only a few remember Ashcroft. The official story was a gas explosion during the fireworks. No survivors, no town. But every year, on July 4th, people in neighboring counties report strange lights in the sky. 1 second, a single pulse. And if you listen closely, you might hear a whisper on the wind, "You are seen." Story 2. Ashes on the 4th, they say. The worst part wasn't the noise. It was the silence that followed. On July 4th, 1999, the town of Garland's Hill vanished without a trace. 23 families gone overnight. The only thing left behind was a scorched flag and an unlit bonfire. The FBI closed the case. Locals moved on. But every 4th of July since, strange broadcasts cut through the static, whispering, "Light the fire." In 2025, podcast host and urban legend investigator Naomi Torres visited the site of Garland's Hill for a holiday special. What was meant to be a quirky seasonal episode quickly turned into a descent into one of America's most horrifying unsolved disappearances. Naomi didn't believe in ghosts, but what she captured, what followed her home, made her question everything. Garland's Hill had long been wiped from modern maps. The only mention of it was on archived pages and scattered Reddit threads. Locals in nearby towns rolled their eyes at the mention, some with amusement, others with poorly concealed fear. Naomi and her team weren't strangers to strange. Her podcast, Underneath, had explored hauntings, cults, and unsolved crimes. But Garland's Hill had an energy even she couldn't rationalize away. Newspaper clippings from 1999 described it as the July disappearance. The fireworks began like any other celebration. Music, food, laughter. But around 9 p.m., a blinding red light was seen stretching high above the hills. Witnesses from nearby towns described it as a silent explosion that didn't fade. When emergency services arrived the next day, Garland's Hill was empty. Houses untouched. TVs still playing baseball reruns. Sprinklers watering empty lawns. And in the center of the town square, massive bonfire pit, rimmed with burned stone and scorched dirt. No one had lit it. No one could explain why it was. Still smoldering, the investigation yielded nothing. No bodies, no signs of struggle. The FBI eventually declared it an environmental gas explosion. But no gas line ran through Garland's Hill. The town was erased, removed from GPS systems, public records, even mail routes. Naomi arrived with her audio tech Jordan, a conspiracy buff, and Erica, her skeptic best friend. They set up a small tent near the ruins of the community center. Trees had overtaken most of the town, roots curling around broken sidewalks and rusted mailboxes. Naomi felt it instantly, an unnatural stillness, like the place was holding its breath. As they recorded B-roll audio, Naomi's mic picked up a low hum. She checked the files. Embedded in the waveform, a whisper. Light it. Wind. Distortion, Erica said. Naomi wasn't so sure. That night, the trio gathered around their fire pit. Radio set to different AM frequencies, trying to capture ghost signals. Just before midnight, every radio switched on by itself. Each broadcasted a different chant. Garbled but unified. In ashes, they wait. In flame, they return. The ground beneath them warmed. Jordan, ever curious, wandered toward the original fire pit. Then they heard It scream. By the time they reached the pit, he was gone. Only his boots remained, standing perfectly upright. Naomi wanted to leave, but something inside her said they were in too deep. Erica became withdrawn. She sat by the fire, sketching symbols in the dirt. Naomi tried to talk to her, but Erica only replied, "They're not angry. They just want warmth." Naomi played back their recordings. Hidden within the static were new voices, Jordan's, calling from beyond the signal. "It's beautiful inside." The bonfire pit flared to life just past midnight. No one lit it. The flames danced in impossible patterns, faces, hands, letters forming ancient words. Naomi broke into the library ruins. Behind a collapsed wall, she found a logbook sealed in a fireproof safe. Its pages detailed preparations for a July 4th. Opening, we light the fire. We open the gates. We welcome them. Every family in Garland's Hill had taken part. It wasn't a disappearance. It was a ritual. They had summoned something and joined it. Naomi lit a second fire, using logs from the ruins. For a moment, everything stilled. Then the sky ripped. A red tear across the stars. And through it came shapes, embers given form. People glowing like coal, smiling with hollow eyes. They moved silently, surrounding the camp. Naomi tried to speak, but her voice vanished. Erica walked toward them, arms open. One ember reached for Naomi. She hit record. Only Naomi returned. Found weeks later, wandering a highway miles from the site, shoeless and muttering the fire was the door. Her episode aired once. Listeners claimed the final minutes weren't Naomi's voice. It was hundreds, maybe thousands, chanting in sync. Light the fire. Naomi now lives in silence. Every 4th of July, she retreats to a soundproof bunker, lights no candles, and listens for the whispers. Because silence, she says, keeps them out. Story 3. Beneath the booms, every 4th of July, they say, you should be careful where you watch the fireworks. Because, in the town of Crandall, Ohio, if you stand in the wrong place, when the sky lights up you'd disappear, just vanish. 1 second, you're there, the next, you're gone, swallowed by the same burst of color that dazzled the crowd. They call it the vanishing point. And this year, it's back. In 2025, local teen Bryn Holloway decided to livestream Crandall's infamous fireworks show on her channel, more out of defiance than curiosity. She thought the stories were dumb, urban legends for tourists. But what her camera caught that night, what it revealed, frame by frame, changed everything. Because someone did vanish, and it wasn't the first time. Crandall wasn't always called Crandall. In the 1800s, it was Boomtown, named for the coal and silver mines that sprawled like veins beneath the hills. The mines brought wealth, and with it, celebration. The town's first 4th of July celebration in 1879 drew thousands from across the state. But that night, beneath the cheers and the boom of fireworks, the earth groaned. A mineshaft collapsed, swallowing half the field and over 50 spectators. No one ever found the bodies. The town renamed itself out of shame, and the celebration moved, but something else stayed behind. Bryn Holloway wasn't your typical thrill-seeker. She ran a modest YouTube channel that featured abandoned places, local myths, and quirky regional lore. Crandall's legend of the vanishing point seemed perfect. She invited her best friend, Connor, and a few others to join her on the town hill where the event was set to take place. Bryn set up 3 angles, one aimed at the sky, one watching the crowd, and one fixed on her group. As dusk settled, the field filled with folding chairs, blankets, and excited chatter. Vendors sold glow sticks and cotton candy. A DJ blasted patriotic tunes. It felt normal, too normal. Bryn joked on stream, "If I disappear, someone better make this go viral." The fireworks began at 9:10 p.m. The first few bursts were glorious fountains of color and sound. Then came the green shell at precisely 9:12 p.m. as a green chrysanthemum firework lit up the sky. Connor turned to look directly into it and flickered. Not a blink, not a glitch. On the live stream, his body distorted like static. His form shimmered, grew transparent, and then vanished. Bryn screamed. The camera caught the moment in 3 angles, but the crowd didn't react. It was as if they didn't see it. The next morning, the stream had over 2 million views. Most thought it was a hoax, but Bryn knew. Because when she checked her raw footage, she saw something the stream didn't show. In the middle of the green firework, a shadowy figure reaching down. Bryn threw herself into the town's history. Every 12 years, she discovered someone disappeared during the fireworks. Records were sparse whispers, lost articles, police reports sealed or redacted. In 1915, a young couple vanished. In 1927, a mayor's son, 1939, a war veteran. The pattern continued. 1951, 1963, 1975, and so on. Always July 4th, always the fireworks, always near the original site of the mine collapse. Bryn found old footage of the 1987 celebration. In a slowed-down frame, a child holding a balloon walks toward the firework burst and vanishes in mid-step. Her parents never left town, still hanging posters every year. A Reddit user at WatchTheSky87 messaged Bryn anonymously. They claimed to have lived in Crandall their whole life and said they saw something return in 1999. "My brother came back," they wrote, "but he wasn't the same." Bryn met them at a truck stop just outside town. The woman, Elise, told her story. Her brother, Adam, vanished during the 1987 show. 12 years later, in 1999, he showed up on their doorstep, paged, burned, shaking. He didn't know where he'd been. Said it was loud, bright, and he wasn't alone. He begged us to never light another firework. 3 days later, he vanished again. Right in front of Elise. He just unraveled, like smoke. She called them the tethered. Trapped between flashes, Bryn planned to confront whatever it was. She returned to the hill, alone, with upgraded equipment, thermal drones, motion sensors, and a high-speed camera, capable of 10,000 frames per second. At 9:10 p.m., the show began. She streamed live. Her heart pounded as the minutes ticked down. She stood exactly where Connor had vanished. Then the green burst came again. The world slowed. The air felt like static. Her drone caught movement, underground shapes writhing, hands clawing at the dirt. From the sky, the firework opened like a flower, and inside it, a face. Bryn turned and ran. She didn't stop until she reached the edge of town. But something followed her. Not footsteps, not breathing. Just a presence. Bryn disappeared from the internet for 6 weeks. When she returned, her hair had gone white. Her new video, titled Beneath the Booms, was silent, just images, flashing symbols, and slowed down fireworks showing faces screaming in light dot. No one understood it. Every 4th of July still celebrates, and every 12 years someone new joins the tethered. Bryn lives off the grid now, but she still watches, and she still warns. If this story lit a fuse in your spine, like and subscribe. But this 4th, when the sky lights up, don't look too closely, and for heaven's sake, never stand alone.